Members, first item, sending apologies, Chair's approval of members' remote participation, because we've got George online tonight. I'll do that with immediate effect, but very, very warm welcome. It's Annan Common Good. It's the 21st of August today, and it's just gone 6 p.m. on an evening time. So, sending apologies and Chair's approval of doing that. So, sending apologies, I think it's yourself, Amanda, is it? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, members. I confirm that we're quorate tonight, and in person in the Town Hall we have our Chair, Councillor Ian Carruthers, Councillor Richard Brodie. We have our two community representatives, Alan Kay and Alan Weald, and on Teams we have George Jameson. Apologies from Councillor Sean Marshall. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Amanda. Any members got any declarations of interest? Councillor Brodie, Richard?
Yeah, I've got a statement of connection with a member of Annan Harbour Action Group. Well, I don't think it's enough interest for me to withdraw. I'll stay in the meeting.
No, thanks very much for that. And that'll be under item number 4, I think. Is it? Yep. Thank you. Thanks very much. I'll just double check any other members, which I don't see any other members who have any declarations of interest or connection. Minute of the previous meeting, 30th of June 24. That's here for approval, members. Nice. Obviously, we're looking at accuracy. If members are okay to agree with that. Yep, getting nods in the room. George, you okay with that? Yep, getting nods as well for George. Members will see that as being approved. Item number 4 is the Annan Common Good Fund Asset Report by Head of Thriving Communities. So, Jamie, I think this is for yourself. See Harry Hayes at the end of it, but it's yourself that's leading this, I think. Jamie?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further to add to the report, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. Open up to members' questions in regards to this one. I'll maybe kick off with members. I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 different subject matters in here. So, see, so it talks at within the report about the Annan Quayside in particular, Annan Harbour Action Group, and we're looking to feedback to them. I'm interested in regards to, I suppose it's the whether it's a community asset transfer, whether it's a sale of the quayside I'm thinking about, or if it's a long lease. I'd be interested to speak to them directly. So I suppose the first thing in regards to that, I've got 2 points anyways, and I'll open up to members maybe to further discuss as well. But are they interested in purchase stroke asset transfer only, or would they consider a long-term lease? I'd like to understand that point of view, but I'd rather have a face-to-face conversation. And I suppose I'll let George in at that time. We don't hog with this, so I'll leave it at that. But obviously, I would prefer a face-to-face meeting as well, if we could possibly organise that. That's with the members themselves, the committee members. George, you're the next person to come in, I think. George, Councillor Jimison, that is.
Yeah. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I just get a point of clarification, Chair. Appendix 1. Sorry, the second point is agree to issues associated with Annan Quayside and the Harbour Draft Business Plan and provide feedback for Annan Harbour Action Group. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I maybe been a bit dull, but what kind of issues have we to agree to? And it's the agree that I'm most concerned with, agreeing to issues associated with Annan Quayside.
Thank you, Councillor Jameson. What we are doing is we're presenting a draft business plan on behalf of Annan Harbour Action Group. What they're looking for is any feedback prior to them submitting a final report and stage 2 community asset transfer request. So they're looking for early intervention and feedback with regards to their business plan, and asking if members had any questions or any issues that they've seen within that business plan that they can address for a future report to come back to committee.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Yeah. Sorry, Chair.
If I was just got to say, just come back, because I think I seen your hand coming back up.
Yeah, there's a number of things that I would query, Chair, and not in any sort of negative way, but just in some concern. The potential economic impact, for instance, I would suggest on the face of it, it's fairly speculative. And when we talk about 750 young people unemployed, this will not have a great deal of impact. So I would just like a little bit more context on that. And I don't disagree that there'll be environmental and social benefit, but I'm more sceptical about the figures that we're using, because there's a degree of assumption. Like if we save two fewer TP visits per year, etc., etc. I don't think that would take a lot of picking holes in. So I would just like to put a bit of context on the potential economic impact, because when we look at the over 15 years, we're talking about £4.5 million. Well, we have to, I think, argue the case that the socioeconomic benefits will outweigh the fact that we're not going to get a profit out of this, given the input of £11 million. So I would suggest we stress the health, environment, well-being, etc., and maybe be more realistic about the financial, economic outcomes, because they are speculative. There's no real fact to back them up. So that would be my suggestion if the group are looking for suggestions.
I just, if you didn't mind, I'll bring you straight in after that, Richard. So just my whole point was around about that type of question, George, just to put it into context. So my thoughts were, okay, if that type of question could and should be asked, as well as others, but that's around about a face-to-face meeting. So rather than have speculative questions like this, then Jamie goes back, speaks to them, reports back to the next committee, then we'll have this almost like committee discussion taking over 6 or 9 months, takes forever. Why don't we just meet with them between now and the next committee, have that face-to-face, have these open questions, then it comes back by the way of a report, and it reflects the conversation that we've had, and we can make decisions at that point. Okay, so you can get your questionnaire answered fully from the horse's mouth, straight from the Harbour Group itself. But Richard wants to make comment, I think, before he come back. Councillor Brodie?
Yeah, just on the business plan and the economic returns, it has gone through a very rigorous process, the business plan, because it's got to be assessed before you get levelling up fund. It's got to go through a really rigorous process where it's independently scrutinised by consultants who are employed by the government to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So there's a threshold to meet to get levelling up funds, which is to get a certain level of economic benefit before it can be considered, and they've gone through it, and the government's consultants have concluded that it would make a good return on the investment, because it's going to be £14–15 million invested in it, and Annan will see the benefit of that over many years. They'll get that benefit.
No, thanks so much for that, and certainly I'll come back in, George, but my thoughts were in particular roundabout. So we do see that socio-economic benefit coming back, as you've raised, but you've got a question over that, and I think it's maybe an appropriate question to ask in that private session. But the reason I raised the ownership or community asset transfer or sale, whatever it may be, I think their option is probably a community asset transfer at zero disposition, and that's why I've raised the question. Well, let's look at that, because is that in the best interest of the inhabitants of the Royal Borough of Annan? That's our remit in particular. We look at our delegations here. That's why I referenced that, but I think all questions should be open for consideration. George?
Yeah, 100% agree, Ian. I think that sort of meeting would be really helpful. I'm looking at it from a councillor's perspective and a more holistic view of it, and I don't deny the credibility and enthusiasm for this, and I support it. But I have to wear a sceptical hat as well. If I've got scepticism in my head, I've got to have that discussion, so that I'm convinced. I'm convinced that the plan is coherent and can be substantiated. I take Richard's point on this, but I'm still not convinced. And that's my job as a councillor. So I think a proper discussion where I can be persuaded, and I'm very happy to be persuaded, because I think the environment and the well-being of people actually come ahead of economic benefit. But there's so many words in there that are speculative.
Thanks so much for that. Open up to any other members, even if it's in regards to comments, in regards to suggestion as a face-to-face meeting between now and the next meeting with the action group. Yep, Alan.
Chair, I'd agree entirely that a meeting is required to discuss. It's such an important question, and we've got to get it right. Otherwise, down the line, people will say, why did you do this or why did you do that? We've got to cover ourselves, and I think a meeting is probably the best way to deal with it. As you say, it's certainly the quickest way to deal with it, and I think that's, as far as the Harbour Group's of major concern, is the speed. Thank you.
No, thanks very much. Just my 18th year as a councillor now with Dumfries and Galloway councillors. Too many times I've looked back now and says, I wish I took George's attitude and said, listen, I should have asked more questions. I should have done this, should have done that. Too much doubt, just to make sure that I was absolutely clear in mind, because things can come back to bite later on. But I don't think, well, in this case, I just think the questions need to be asked. We have to undertake a scrutiny role. But for me, it's first and foremost, what's in the best interests of the inhabitants of the Royal Borough of Annan, because that's what our delegations are in front of us. But I think George is absolutely right when he says, right, okay, when this eventually escalates its way up to the corporate and service committees of the council, we start to put a different hat on and say, right, okay, is the wider socio-economic benefits and such like. Alan Kay? Alan?
Yeah, I'm also of the opinion that a long lease would give the Annan Harbour Group all the things that they require. If they want to use it for grant funding, then a long lease would do that as well. An Annan Common Good would still have control over the harbour. I don't want to see it slipping out their hands if there's another way that's equally acceptable to the Harbour Group, which is why the discussion's paramount.
Excellent, thank you very much. So, Alan, Councillor Wield, are you okay with that, Alan?
Chair, yeah, fine with that, yep.
Spot on, excellent. So, I'll look at recommendations, because there is other points I'd like to pick up if that's okay with members. So, 2.1 I'll leave at the moment, because it is a noting, but 2.2, just so I'm going to reflect back to that. 2.2 is agree to the issues associated with the Annan Quayside and the harbour draft plan. So, I wonder if we could change that, take your advice on this, Jamie, in regards to we'll have a meeting with them and report back to the next Annan Common Good Committee and the outcome of that meeting. And the meeting will obviously be round about their requests or what's outlined within there, actually.
So an operational, sorry Chair, an operational action will be for me to set a face-to-face meeting with Annan Harbour Action Group.
I would say it will be an operational action, but what would contain within the recommendations, so it's a decision of this committee that we will have a meeting, but obviously you'll fulfil that duty. So we see it's in the public face. The committee's made the decision rather than. I'm sceptical about actions and action trackers and such like. They've made that kind of clear in the past. Note the area of interest in the Annan Harbour Action Group as presented in Appendix D. So if we've done that in real time, so we've made a couple of comments in regards to we might have further points of information we'd like to request, but we'll do that through a meeting with Annan Harbour Action Group. 2.3 we've noted that. 2.1. So this comes back to the register the common good assets ourselves. So just looking at this and what's in the best interest of Annan, just because we've all got knowledge in regards to leases and such like that come up. So I'm just going to pick on a couple and I wonder if we could have a similar kind of action stroke recommendation in the back of that, but I'll open it up to members. So we know this year we've had an extension with the leases. I think it's with both Annan Athletic and the caravan site up there. So whilst that's undergoing, I think members have got a kind of thirst and it needs to be satisfied in regards to, right, okay, for the long term sake, what's the best way in which that's taken forward? Because we've had different degrees of interest in those sites from both the caravan park and the athletic, and whether it's community asset transfers, ownership, so on and so forth. So again, so that one, if members are okay, but maybe get your views as well in regards to this. Obviously look for yourself as well, George, but if there's particular requests coming up there, I think leases are at their end, even in a state of limbo at the moment, how do we then bring them forward in a sustainable manner? So looking for, I think we again, potentially we'll get a report back, even have meetings with the two organisations if that's necessary, but open to members. I'll open it up to other members first. I've cast my thoughts out there to see if anybody else is of similar thought or the polar opposite. So, Alan, Councillor Alan Kay first.
I would agree entirely that we meet with both groups because the leases are currently on tacit relocation, which means a year-to-year basis running. And I'm sure that both the caravan site and the football club would rather that their leases were established in a longer lease than that, so that they can get the benefit of them as well. I think what you're suggesting at a meeting is probably the best way, because there are various points that, okay, I'm not bringing up at the moment, but I would obviously bring up at any future meeting that we have with them, because as you say, it's got to be in the best interest of the inhabitants of Annan, and again, we've got to make sure that we do it right.
Okay. Jamie?
Chair, I would just like to clarify, actually the lease on the the football ground has a minute of variation with an extension to their lease, which we agreed here at committee in 2022.
That's no problem. It'd be good just to get refreshed, I think, so because the subject matters are closely linked. So we're absolutely clear, right, okay, if that's that, if there's potential there. I suppose the biggest thing for me is that if through the asset register, and I think that's how it's come up, through our, looking at our assets, how we best enhance and grow the income that we've got from our assets so we can disperse wider. Is there opportunity potentially either invest there, community asset transfer, stay in limbo, stay where it is, get better on the open market? Can we get better tenders? So we just, it's by the view of looking at that, that's certainly where my thoughts are coming from. Can we get better return for this, for the sake of our inhabitants and the people here to represent, actually? Councillor Jimmerson, George?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I'm tending to agree with you. What I'm lacking here is enough knowledge to actually really contribute. So would it be helpful if we got somebody of more expertise than maybe ourselves to give us the pros and cons for both the community council and the people who may be taking advantage of leases or asset transfers? It might be an idea just to get somebody with that sort of expertise to explain the pros and cons.
No problem. So again, for your time, George, we've had people from property services down to give us that. So I wonder if could we have a meeting with them as well, similar to the Annan Harbour Action Group, invite property services or somebody legal to that who could guide us in that way? Would that be a meeting before then? That way a report's formulated to come back similar to the Annan Harbour one. We'd see that back. Would you be comfortable with that, George?
Yeah, absolutely. If other folk are, it may be just that I should be doing my homework as well, but it would be helpful to get that professional insight.
No, that's how I got mine in the first place. It wasn't through the reports. Fair enough. It was actually with them type of conversations. I think that's the way I learn best, is that practical sense. How would you do? Is everybody okay with that as a suggestion? You okay? Yep. George is too. How have you kind of caught that? And Jamie, thank you.
So far I have an action to arrange a face-to-face meeting with Annan Harbour Action Group to discuss the contents of their draft business plan and their future aspirations for the quayside, and looking at all available options to them. So that will form the basis of a report that will come back to a future committee. Okay.
Yep.
And the second action is to arrange another meeting potentially with legal services and property services internal to discuss options that are available with regards to the leases available on some of our assets. And again, potentially looking at meeting with both Annan Athletic and the Galabank Caravan Park tenants to discuss their future aspirations and any future requests that they would like to take forward in the form of a lease.
I would agree with that. Just well, Richard, I'll make my comments at the very end. Richard?
Yeah, thanks. Just back at Councillor Jimmeson's comments. I think looking at the business plan, this is just the business plan for the quay itself, because it doesn't include the works that have been the development of the Collett's building into a maritime centre and cafe, which is where that's where the great benefits will come, and the development of the MRS as an environmental service. So I can see where Councillor Jim's comments are. This is just the actual activities on the quayside which are involved, not in the actual development from the Levelling Up Fund.
No problem. That's for the whole project. So it'd be good to see that information. You can ask that directly, obviously, George, at the time. So I think Richard just wanted to make that clear. So the only bit I think missing for the last point was members of the timeline. So again, could we fit that in between now and the next meeting, do you think? So I think it's like a two-stage you're saying, no, Jamie?
Yes, certainly. So the next Common Good Committee is November, so what I'll try and do to make sure we get those face-to-face meetings within the next month, which will allow us time to produce a report to present at the next Common Good meeting.
Excellent. You okay with that, George, as well? Everybody's nodding in the room?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
Excellent, spot on, thanks very much. So we've captured that, I think. Yep, ideal, excellent. Number 5, members. I'll just It's an Common Good Fund final outturn. It's for 22-23 to 24 and financial plan for 24-25. Reports by the Head of Thriving Communities. Jamie, it's self-explanatory, but have you got anything to add?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, what I would like to add is obviously members in the report before you, it shows you the current cash balance. I'd just like to highlight to members that since 2019, when we started regular monitoring of these finances, we have grown and the overall cash balance from £250,000 464 pence, with a projected cash balance at the end of this financial year of 299,402. With the forecast being submitted. So as you can see, we have been adhering to the aims and objectives of looking after our common good funds.
Oh, excellent, good work with that. Good work to the members as well, obviously. But so, I'll just wait and see if anybody's got any particular questions. This was straightforward for me, I felt 2.1 was noting the level of funds as outlined in Appendix 1. 2.2 was also noting the assets, yep. So 2.3 was to agree the financial objective of the financial plan, being to maintain the financial health of the fund and maximise and manage the level of free income available for distribution by the Common Good Subcommittee as presented at paragraphs 4.2.2, and agree the financial plan as at 2.4 that is for 24-25 as outlined in Appendix 4. We've got a proven pattern of success here. Everybody's nodding. Thanks very much for that, Jamie. Thank you, members. Getting number 6. It's Annan Common Good. It's a monitoring report for 24-25. The purpose of this report is to provide members with an overview of performance against the financial plan for the period ending the 5th of June this year, Q1 for Annan Common Good. Jamie, first let.
Thank you, members. Just to highlight that there is a difference between the free income, and obviously that is highlighted in the report due to the grant fund that we awarded to Annan Riding of the Marches in June of this year at this committee, and whether members would just to like to continue to use the free income for the dispersal of the grants for the local community, or if they would like to set amount aside, so I can include that in the future plan, the forward plan, sorry, and we're obviously kept up to date with that.
Thank you, Jamie. Open that up to members for any comments in regards to that, but there's obviously a clear decision to be made. Any members got any thoughts? 2.1's for noting, as already outlined. 2.2 is also to note the projected free income, the 9.5k or so. It's outlined at paragraph 3.2, but 2.3 is asking us to agree the amount to be allocated for grants 24-25 is outlined in 4.2. Members okay with that? As outlined? Okay with that, Jamie? Excellent, straightforward then. Number 7, this is getting very quick now. So, this is funding applications. I think it's the last item to the night, but remember, just as a wee pre-warner, we're in good time of the night, about 5 minutes of time at the end. But we'll do that once the meeting's finished. So this report, the reason for this report is members are asked to consider the applications for financial assistance from the Annan Common Good Fund Subcommittee. Jamie, do you want any comments in regards to this?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further to add. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brodie.
Yeah, I've got 2 applications from very good community organisations. Both the Rugby Club and the Town Band contribute to the local community and the Royal Borough of Annan, so I think I would support the £2,000 for each organisation. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Jimison. George. You're on mute, I think.
Sorry, I totally agree with Richard. So I'm in support.
Excellent, first class. So full-heartedly support. So I just wondered, when I was reading these reports, so obviously I thought about the rugby club firstly, but it probably came out of mind was thinking of the town band. So how do we get the chance to view them in their nice new jackets and so on and so forth once they're purchased? And so from both perspectives, what I've wrote here, how does Common Good Fund members see the final results? So I wondered, is it, I mean, so I'm not advocating this, but just to try and put it into context, historically the committee ain't a grant over 10k, I think it was, wasn't it? We used to get a presentation back. So it's not to see them come and do a presentation or playing a tune for us, so to speak, here, but it's how do we actually, even if even if potentially got an invite to someone just so we get a chance to see it, it would be good to get, then we see that, so how it actually manifests in real terms. Jamie?
Thank you. And as members are aware, for other grants that are dispersed throughout the council and various committees, there is a monitoring process. That's not something that we've actually incorporated into our grants previously, but I'm happy to come up with some form of monitoring or get in touch with both of the organisations to see how they would like to present back, how they've used and utilised the funds, and report back to a future committee.
I'd agree entirely. I think that's only reasonable that, as you say, we see the proof of the pudding, you know, and see them in the nice new uniforms would be great.
Councillor Jimison, George?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I also think possibly it would be good publicity for Annan Common Good Fund to demonstrate where the money's going. I happen to go along to obviously got a great deal of history with Annan Rugby Club, but I haven't had much to do with them for a number of years. So I went up to their Grizzlies versus the Young'uns the other day, a week past Saturday, and it was brilliant to see the number of people that were there. It was just the community spirit, young folk running about, and just folk having a good time. So it'd be good just to promote the money that goes in from the common good and the benefit it does give to the whole community. So I think some of that would be really good.
Jamie?
And just to highlight to members, obviously within the criteria, it does say that any community group that are successful in receiving common good funding does promote that as part of their advertising.
Members, it's up to yourself. We can present a cheque if you want to them. Sure, you get a bit of publicity. It'd be for the wider committee though, not just for an individual. Look for everybody to turn up to that, and it's sure that goes back to your point, George.
And things like that.
I think we've kind of done it in the past. I remember doing it at the British Pike Band Championship, and I remember doing it there, and it was. But it goes back to that point what George was making. Actually, here's the uncommon good with dispersing money. At least somebody sees how they've got that money and where it's went, or something. But it's just a suggestion. So that can maybe come back, maybe feedback with your discussions as the money goes forward. Would members, if that kind of thing was up, if the organisations that were giving the money to were up for that, would the members be up for that? A bit of better communications. George, yep, excellent.
Yep.
As a suggestion, just aye, thanks for that, George. Jamie, if they're up for that, we'd be up for that. Yep, excellent. So take that as being both getting the full award, £2,000 each. Members, so from an official standpoint, I have no further competent business. So we'll close the meeting officially, but I just get a couple of minutes your time. Please say a couple of words to you. So just give me the